In case you didn't realize, we're fast approaching the half-decade mark for both the PS4 and Xbox One. In only a few months, they'll have been on shelves for 5 whole years, one less than the amount of time it took Sony to release the PS3 after the monumental PS2. It's a really interesting time. The Nintendo Switch is fast becoming one of the most beloved systems in years, Microsoft are experimenting with monthly subscription services, and Sony are absolutely slaying it right now. So put aside any qualms born of warring console factions and let's just revel in what the past 5 years have achieved. No matter which of the two biggest systems you own, there are a ton of phenomenal titles to pick up. Oh, and Nintendo Switch owners, we'll get to you guys in good time. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 overlooked PS4 and Xbox One games you need to stop ignoring. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 10, Kingdom Come: Deliverance. Unfortunately and annoyingly caught in a tailspin conversation surrounding the game's depiction of race in 1400s Bohemia, I'm gonna sidestep that entirely for the sake of recommending Kingdom Come as one of the most refreshingly back-to-basics survivalist RPGs in quite some time. Foregoing the majority of hand-holding quest design tropes or labyrinthine tutorials for a mindset that casts you as no-namer Henry, you're then sent off on a revenge mission with everything from sword fighting to poison resistance being earned along the way. You'll start out getting battered in fights, have your health whittled down to 0 in seconds by cack-handed duels, and barely scrape by in any social space because no one really knows who you are. Some fantastically delivered cutscenes segment the idea that all of this is intentional though, as you're supposed to go on a rags-to-riches journey alongside Henry, learning as he does how to fire a bow, how to take on multiple attackers, and how to craft healing bombs with ease. The result is like nothing else, an endlessly rewarding experience that plays on certain fantasy RPG ideals but wraps them in a ton of real-world history. At least I'm pretty sure it does. Number 9, Nioh. Literally the next best thing to the original Dark Souls if we're talking about games that took major influence from that game, Nioh's combat is fast, brutal, tactile, and accomplished. You'll likely know the standard Souls formula of turtling around enemies and picking your spots, but Nioh adds a rewarding loot system marked on the map by other fallen players. Defeat them and you'll earn sizable rewards, actually encouraging grinding to overcome the next set-piece battle if you happen to get stuck. Also in here are customizable attack and defense animations, multiple stances per weapon, and a game engine that encourages speed and confidence once you get your head around everything. It's sublime and a worthy successor to Ninja Gaiden. Number 8, Gang Beasts. The best local multiplayer game of the generation, easily. Gang Beasts almost doubles as the best wrestling game ever as well, as its freeform Havoc physics animation system sees bodies flop and flail around after being thrown or slammed. Overall though, it's the idea of a set-piece brawler that makes everything pop. Punches, choke slams, two-armed lifts, high-flying clotheslines, and devastating dropkicks, it's all done through a control scheme that animates your arms, legs, and head respectively. Once you've got it down, you and your friends will be climbing the walls for leaps of faith or trading blows while hanging onto the side of a moving Ferris wheel. Experimentation is key, but the possibilities that developers Bone Loaf have programmed in, phenomenal name, are all worth seeking out. Number 7, The Evil Within 1 and 2. The current horror landscape is enamored with first-person perspectives and in-your-eyes jump scares. But to be honest, Resident Evil 4 was onto something timeless with its over-shoulder camera and more action-based setup. The Evil Within, then, is director Shinji Mikami's first shot at horror since then, and the game's chainsaw-wielding goons and miscaked villages are emblematic of it being a spiritual successor. From here, though, the idea of a Matrix-style, everybody's connected to a shared dreamscape of nightmares and memories setup allows for the craziest creatures Mikami and his team have ever devised. They all end up being great fun to bring down with a shotgun that kicks like a cage fighter, but it's the sequel that kind of redefines horror design as we know it. Taking an open-world design template and making gaming's first open-world horror, though it only happens in 2 specific spots, having jump scares, secrets, and set pieces spread across a world of stealth and contemplation makes for one hell of a change of pace. Come for the old-school controls and creature feature enemies, but stay for the playful expansion of what horror can do as a genre. Number 6, ReCore Definitive Edition. Now look, it may not have been the smoothest of games to this day. ReCore was developed alongside Mighty No. 9, which, is an abomination, but this re-released Definitive Edition did more than just touch up the base game. To be frank, it finished it. Entire chunks of the once terrible endgame were completed, with ReCore now able to shine as something that does away with precision aiming for a lock-on shooter, specializing in movement, ammo types, and finishes. Almost making you apply a melee sensibility to third-person shooting, the challenge is in juggling enemies and looking for openings. A tactile sensibility that extends to an array of customizable companions you'll get to flesh out with myriad parts and XP. Also worth noting is that the script is from Halo 1, 2, and 3 writer Joseph Staten, a quasi-post-apocalyptic tale where leading Lady Jewel arrives too late to an ongoing scientific expedition, leaving her to find out what's been happening in the interim years. Just don't let its stop-start launch put you off. ReCore has a ton to offer, and despite everything, its heart is in the right place. Number 5, Minute. Now, I know you're gonna say, well, that looks like something I'd play on a piece of ham. And you may be right, but it doesn't make Minute any less charming or superbly designed. Set around a lone hero finding a sword that then traps them to a never-ending loop of 1 minute lifetimes, Minute is like the original Zelda done bite-sized, with a Groundhog Day premise resetting when the clock strikes 0. While you might think this makes gameplay incredibly limiting, quickly you discover how immaculately well-planned every facet of the game is. Instead of time being a burden, it only gets you thinking. Items and questlines can go across multiple runs, and weapons can retroactively unlock early game pathways. You'll unlock different spawn points and ways to mess with time itself, granting you some precious extra seconds to do even more the next time around. From front to back, not a single pixel is misplaced. It's one of the tightest games around, with an indie dev spirit and focused vision that you just can't help but love. Or at least, I couldn't. Number 4, Sniper Elite 4. Sometimes you just can't beat a damn good third-person shooter. Across the 2000s especially, Gears of War's influence was everywhere. While Sniper Elite is way more MGS5-style open-world stealth than run-and-gun cover shooter, it's a reminder that a distance perspective in a tactile shooter is a great way to engage scores of enemies at once. Picking a route through a level and busting out the occasional melee kill is just a great way to play. Sniper Elite's shtick has long been following any bullet in super slow motion to its target, but this 4th installment is actually a franchise best. Thanks to expertly designed levels, great abilities, fun equipment, and weapons with the perfect amount of kick, developers Rebellion are going to need to dig even deeper if they're ever going to improve on this. Number 3, Mad Max. Missed off many people's to-buy lists thanks to dropping on the exact same day as Metal Gear Solid 5, Mad Max never got a look in because hardly anybody even knew it existed. And that's a shame, because what Avalanche Studios put together has brilliantly impactful vehicle combat, with experimental in-motion abilities to win the day, twinned with Arkham-style brawling and a handful of survival mechanics. You'll need to find petrol to fuel your customizable ride, stock up on water to withstand the more harsh parts of the environment, and the storms? Mad Max's hurricanes are a feast for the eyes. Just trying to stay alive without being flattened by a piece of debris is exhilarating in itself. All of the aforementioned mechanics are spread across a sizable and rewarding open world, one dotted with outposts to take over, vehicles to collect, parts to craft, and more insane mission givers than every GTA combined. It's great. Number 2, Fury. Hands down the coolest game on PS4 if you're anything of a synthwave fan, Fury has an original soundtrack scored by heavyweights in the genre, including Carpenter Brute, Waveshaper, and the Toxic Avenger. Though it's the gameplay being a top-down hack and slash with heavy elements of bullet hell that really make it fun. Combined, it makes up a series of boss fights where your reactions, timing, and memorizations of patterns will be pushed to the absolute limit, all being themed around a lone cyber samurai escaping a prison in the heavens. In between the duels are wandering passages where you can catch your breath and take in the world designed by Afro samurai artist Takashi Okazaki. But just from a pure gameplay standpoint, Fury is tight, relentless, and rewarding as hell. Mixing isometric projectile sections and camera-zoomed one-on-one fighting game sequences, Fury is a visual, audio, and sensory feedback feast. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. Number 1, Titanfall 2. It's not often that in gaming, the most popular of any given genre isn't also the most mechanically proficient, the genuine best on offer, but the fact that Call of Duty and Battlefield reign supreme while Titanfall 2 falls to the wayside is tragic, to say the least. Thankfully, EA have bought developers Respawn outright, so we at least know Titanfall 3 is coming at some point. But for now, way more people need to play Titanfall 2. With the best first-person movement system in a shooter, bar none, Titanfall 2 has you sprinting across walls, grapple hook and Spider-Manning your way around levels, and landing some supremely weighty melee kills. There are class-defining power-ups, knee slides, mechs that only bolster your power sets for limited times, and some charged finishes that feel like you're controlling the finest fireworks display on Earth. The chain of attacks you can pull off is just second to none. Titanfall 2 is an immaculate game with a rollout of post-launch content that only benefited early investors and the fans first. Go give it some love.
Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Aren't you a star? Don't forget to subscribe below, and also the people who made this video, they're right here, so go and follow them and give them some love. If you want to see more content, there's probably some stuff flowing up above my head. Why not check it out? It could be fun. I'm not your dad.